So I thank you all for supporting, and for today, for the facilitators, we have the Phoenix, we have Mass Mentoring, we have Mitzi here who will be tabling. So we have so many partners. So I thank you all for supporting this effort. It's the first year that we are launching all of this, the Second Chance and Reentry Week. So we're hoping next year will be even bigger and better. But I don't want to take up more time. I've been speaking throughout the entire week, so I definitely want to give some time for some of the other organizers to introduce themselves and talk a little bit more about what they have been doing and what they are currently doing. But before we continue, if you have not decided which breakout session you'll be a part of, there are 3 this morning. The first one is, if you have not noticed, if you are familiar with Nipsey Hussle, who passed away not too long ago in California, I named most of the workshops, if not all of them, by some of his songs, so you'll probably notice that in the bold. So Victory Lap is one of my favorites. That one is going to be the job readiness workshop. Off the Record is the Steal and Expunge, and Double Up will be mental health and wellness to start off at 10. And then when we reconvene, when we transition out to the 11 o'clock session, it starts with you, which is mediation and pro-social relationships, and then dedication, physical health and wellness. Then we'll have lunch, and we'll have the employment and resource fair, and then you'll go. I don't think we'll keep you here until 3:30, so you'll probably be going home closer to 2, if not earlier. But nonetheless, I will have Kevin Sibley from the Office of Returning Citizen join me on this stage. Thank you.
Can we give another round for Miss Diana?
Yay!
Diana's done an amazing job throughout the week, coordinating, working with all of our different personalities, working with just limited budget and time. So we really want to let you know how much we appreciate your efforts, how much we appreciate all that you've done to connect us through your agency and through your just effort and your love. So we appreciate you. Good morning. Yes, it is morning. Yes, it is on a holiday weekend. So we appreciate your time. We appreciate your presence being here, and we appreciate the connections that we make throughout the day. As we progress throughout the day, we want to encourage conversation. We want to encourage questions. And we want to encourage that you exchange business information and contact information so that we can continue this dialogue. We know that the only way that we're going to overcome some of the injustices that come from the stigma of being incarcerated is by working together. Working together locally, working together throughout your community, and working together throughout the United States of America. And as we work together, I want to introduce one of my newest partners in this work, Mr. Charles Cleveland. As we begin the efforts in moving forward in connecting our communities, we want to shine the light on the things that are important. The Office of Returning Citizens looks toward housing, education, healthcare, and employment as areas that we connect to bring in, how can I say, just as individuals are coming back from incarceration, to know that those are important elements that we care about too. And no individual should be blocked from that pursuit in any way. So Charles helps us to do that. So Charles, I'm going to actually bring you on to talk about this amazing project that you have, sir, and I salute you with that. And after that, we will have a brief conversation. Just real quick housekeeping. Bathrooms are out the door, straight to the side. You'll see the signage. Beverages are available to you all day long. And thank you once again.
Another hearty good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Kevin, for that introduction. My name is Charles Coleman Jr. I am the founder and CEO of CFC 40. You see many people walking around with the CFC 40 shirts. Those are our dedicated members of the team that have come up with me, not only from New York, but from Charlotte, from Atlanta, from all over the country to be here today to support what we're doing in Boston as part of the Day of Inclusion. I'm going to play a brief video for you all just to give you a sense of what it is that CFC 40 is all about before I talk briefly about today and our sort of role in it.
My name I'm a civil rights attorney, a legal analyst on TV, and I run a mentoring program for Black and Latino boys in Brooklyn, New York. Some people call me the Black superhero. I don't wear a cape, fly around in the sky, but there's a lot more to being a superhero than simply politics. Being a superhero isn't about what you can do for yourself. It's about what we can all accomplish when we work together. And that's the idea behind CFC 40.
CFC 40 is a nonprofit organization that I started because I wanted to make a difference. Throughout history in the United States, people of color, Black people, we've had. We've not been able to rely on anyone else to consistently help us to troubleshoot our problems. And because of that, we've always had the resources within our community to do what needs to be done in order to engineer solutions to the problems that affect us most. Right between all of us, our network of people, our network of organizers, our network of organizations have always been the thing that we've had. And it's always been more than enough. The Black Superhero Initiative is something that I came up with, and it essentially involves me going from 10 different cities to do 10 service projects across America. We're going to be helping people get clean water. We're going to be helping feed families. We're going to be helping young people transition into the job market. We're going to be working with the reentry population all over America, looking to help and impact communities and different demographics that are uniquely affected where they are. There's so much conversation that we have about who's in office, who's elected, who's appointed, who's confirmed. There's so much vitriol, there's so much energy that we spend arguing about those things. That if we took that same energy, if we took that same passion, and we reinvested it into our communities, the impact that we could have would be tremendous. I'm super excited. I'm super excited because the idea behind the Black Superhero Project is that anyone can make a difference if you just decide to lead where you are. My dream is that we will be able to inspire and to engage an entire new, an entirely different level, an entirely different generation of new leaders, of new organizers, of people who decided that they want to do something in their communities. The Black Superhero Project, 10 cities, 10 service projects across America. We don't need everyone to save the world by themselves. We don't need everyone to do everything on their own. We just need you to do your part. So join me, Charles Coleman Jr., the Black Superhero, on the Black Superhero Project through CFC 40. I'll see you in one of those 10 cities. Peace. So that's essentially what has brought CFC 40 here. We were fortunate enough to come in contact with some amazing people, Kevin and Jeff, who later introduced us to Diana, and it's just been an amazing thing. We started our journey in Houston, Texas, where we were working with men who had been severely affected by Hurricane Harvey and who were still trying to get on their feet, where we were able to do an amazing service project for them. From there, in January, we went to Flint, Michigan, where we were able to provide over 7,000 gallons of clean water to families that are still affected by the water crisis in Flint. After that, we went to Baltimore in March, where we did a project that centered young women of color who we wanted to make sure had access to sanitary products and feminine hygiene products and things of that nature. So we did over 200 care packages for those women and for young mothers that were in the Baltimore area. Before this, we went to South Carolina, where we were in Columbia, and we did a project for 40 Black girls, where they had a U.S. Olympian come in and do a self-defense tutorial with them to start the day. And then after that, we had lunch with them, and there were a group of male chaperones that spent time with these young women and got a chance to interface with them and interact with them and have conversations with them about things that they don't necessarily get a chance to talk about because many of these young women were without the presence of a consistent father figure or male in their life. And at the end of that day, we ended up giving them 40 new bikes and taught them how to ride bikes, for those of them who didn't know, because oftentimes these are the things that we, don't necessarily think about. And today, we're here with you all in Boston for a day of inclusion. And it is truly our honor and our privilege to be a part of such a special day. Like Kevin and Diana before me, I would like to thank each and every one of you who has come out on this holiday weekend and devoted your time to centering this population, centering this demographic, because this work is critically important. They have me down for far more than I'm actually going to talk. But, while I'm up here, I do want to briefly impress upon you something that I talk about often, which is community as a vehicle for freedom. Community as a vehicle for freedom. And I think that today, particularly with everyone who is represented as part of what we're doing here, that has a unique meaning that differs from any other time that I've given this talk. And part of the reason for that is because the two pieces to that have a very unique meaning, especially for this conversation, as opposed to when I normally give it. And so when I have this conversation, the first element of what I talk about is, what is it to be in community? What does community mean? And I think that for those of us who are engaged in this work, those are questions that we need to continuously refine and answer and think about amongst ourselves. What is our community? Is our community simply the people we live around, the people we live near, within physical proximity to? Is our community, do we define it in terms of our ethnicity, the people who look like us or from the places we are from? Is our community limited or expanded to the people who do the same things that we do, or who live similar lifestyles? I think that any of the above is fine to answer and respond to in terms of how you define community, but it is critical, it is necessary. You must define it for yourself, particularly if you're going to be effective in this work. For me, community is about standing in the gap for others. Community means that I will do so that no one has to go without. And community also means that others will do for me so that I do not have to go without. We all may not have started in the same place, but that then requires of us to do more, to do our part, quite literally, in the name and interest of community. Now, the unique piece of what it is that today brings about when you have conversation about what it is to be in community has a very unique and particular relevance to each of us as practitioners. In this space in particular, in the space of supporting returning citizens. You may have heard in the video that I am a former prosecutor in Brooklyn. I was a former prosecutor in Brooklyn. I worked in the gang unit. And it was out of my experience there that I decided to start the male mentoring program that you saw featured at different points. What I saw as a prosecutor in Brooklyn was that there were so many people who were different cogs in this wheel of criminal justice, but who did not reflect the population that was being most adversely affected by that same system. I saw people who I worked with at the DA's office who did not look like me. And every day when I went to court, I saw defendants who were being prosecuted, and I would look at their files and look at their cases. And without knowing their stories, I could tell this was someone who was born within a week or two of me. This was someone who lived within a 3-block radius of where I grew up. That reality, that understanding caused me to really think about what it is to be in community and what it is to be a part of a community. And it also made me reflect in a way that I could not disassociate myself with community, with the community I had always identified with. And so what does that mean? What does that have any relevance to for each and every one of us in this space today? I submit, as I look out, I see that as compared to the population that is being affected by the criminal justice system, there are a number of practitioners who may come from different backgrounds. There are a number of practitioners who may look different or show up different than the people who are most directly impacted. But I'm here to tell you that that is okay. That is okay because we need allies in every form. We need allies where we can find allies, and we welcome that. But my challenge to you, my challenge to each of you, is to think very critically about what it means and what it is to be in community. Because it is only by asking yourself these questions that you will become a more effective advocate and a more refined ally. It is important for each and every one of us to remind ourselves that we are not here to save anyone. We are here to support others. Our language matters. Our mindset matters. Our approach matters. Because that's what makes community. Community is not about any one individual putting everyone on their back and saving the day. Despite the fact that this is the Black Superhero Project, the sort of trick is that if you decide to engage, if you decide to lead where you are, if you decide to do your part, we all have heroic qualities in us. We all can do that and bring those qualities out. And so that is my challenge to each and every one of us, is to continue to think about, how do I show up in community? How effective of an ally am I being? Am I listening more than I am speaking? Am I willing to learn the things that I do not know? Oftentimes you will find, if you just listen, folks are going to tell you what it is that they need, because they're the persons who are best equipped to know. Being an ally requires and demands of us that we are better listeners, that we are humble and approach this work with love, compassion, and humility, and an understanding that it is not our job to save folks, but it is our job to support people along their journey. And we must continue to ruminate over that in a way that continues to evolve the work that we do and the way that we do it. The second piece of community as a vehicle for freedom, as it relates to today, as it relates to where we are. I give this talk fairly frequently, and it's one of my more challenging things to talk about, because as a Black man in America, freedom is such an elusive concept. And I know some of you may think, well, why is that? How could that be? I mean, you're an attorney, you do media. Why is freedom, why is this notion of freedom elusive? And I often tell people the reason that this is such an elusive concept for me is because if you ask 9 people or 10 people, what does freedom mean to you? If you ask 10 people, undoubtedly you will get 9 different answers. And when I usually give this talk, the reference that I start with is, if I were to have asked my great-great-great-grandmother, a daughter of Memphis, Tennessee, in the Old South, what did freedom mean to her? I'm pretty sure she would have responded, the ability not to simply be in chains. And if I were to fast forward a generation or two, and I were to ask my great-grandmother or my grandmother, what does freedom mean to her? It's quite possible that she would have said, the ability to to simply just go where I want to, when I want to, unencumbered by any sort of problem or restriction. Yet again, if I were to move forward another generation and ask my mother, Ma, what does freedom mean to you? And I have asked her this question. Her answer would yet be different. Freedom for me means the ability to be able to have the qualifications, do the work, get the promotions, lead the company, and be qualified in that way. For her, freedom also means being able to live in New York City and Brooklyn and not have to worry about a son getting pulled over and not coming home. But today, for the first time in a long time, for each of us in this space, as we think about the work that we're doing, freedom has yet an even deeper and more meaningful connotation and association. We think about literal incarceration. We think about the imprisonment of that stigma and how it can follow individuals once they leave in such a way that their past keeps them confined and behind bars even after they have left a correctional facility. We think about state monitoring and what it is to have your life constantly under the watchful eye of the law and being connected to state surveillance pretty much on a 24/7 basis, right? And so it is with that level of gravity, it is with that level of seriousness that we must be very intentional and deliberate about the work that we do. Whether we are ourselves returning citizens who have come today to be connected to the resources that are available and to learn more and to participate in the activities around health and wellness and job readiness and many of the other things that we're going to be talking about today, or whether you're a professional in the space who offers these services and has access to resources, I encourage you all to remain mindful throughout the day of that notion of community as a vehicle for freedom. Because I submit to you, that is how we are able to truly break those chains. That is the way that we are able to really eradicate the stigma that Kevin mentioned, that I just talked about. I submit to you that this is a reality that is within our reach, but we will only grab it through us being deliberate, through us taking on that mantle, not just today, but moving forward, with all of us doing our part. Our ancestors and those before us have given us permission to dream it. Our community, those around us, family and friends and network, have given us the tools to build it. And I, as a man of faith, stand before you and say that our God gives us the power to achieve it. And so with that, I say good morning, I say welcome, and I say thank you.
The day, think about what is your part, what role will you play, and how will you continue to be proximate to the people, places, and problems. Yes?
Can you just review the topics again?
Yes, yes. So the titles are inspired by Nipsey Hussle, who has done a lot of work as a former gang member for returning citizens.